Right, there's the new piece straight out of the printer, and I don't know if you can see, but it's a much nicer fit. So this template will now just extend to the length I want it. Right guys, here I am at my Cura program. Got the foregrip ready to print. A couple of things I've been doing. One is I've always been printing my pieces in a different spot on the table. This just spreads the wear and tear on the machine out. Learned that years ago when I was working as an actual printer with using lasers. And the other thing is, down here it gives you all the details how long it's going to take, and most importantly I feel is the weight of the filament you're going to use, because I'm pretty low and that says I need 47 grams. So I'll show you how you work that out really easily. Okay guys, out in the shed, got a digital scale. Here's an empty filament roll, eSun, same brand as I'm using. Put it on the scales, 271 grams. Zero it, take it off, minus 271 grams. Get the roll I'm using, which is pretty low as you can see, put it on there, and it says I've got 66 grams of filament left. I need 47 for this print, if I remember correctly. So, we're ready to go. Okie dokie. Right, got a couple of these finished, so let's unwrap them and take a look how clever I've been. Okay, that's pretty good. Do the other 7 when they're dry. Moving on. There we go. My 3D printed foregrip mounted. Feels pretty good too. Good proper place. Do some touch-ups on the undercoat, and then I can get onto the salt and clay phase, and then have it painted in 2 or 3 days hopefully. Right guys, now I'm at the salting stage for this one. I'm going to do it a little bit different. First, I'm not going to do it as heavy as I normally do, because I want this weapon to look a bit more newer, and I'm going to do it a bit more controlled. I'm not just going to spray the Mana Red, the undercoat on. I've actually decanted some into a jar, a lid over here, and I'm going to control it a bit more because I don't want it to be, as I said, too much. So just paint on by hand and sprinkle a little bit of salt on. So like with all wear and tear, you put it where there's going to be wear and tear. Obviously around the magazine well there's going to be an awful lot there. In recesses though it's not going to reach as much, so I haven't done any in this center recess. You have to be really quickly doing it this way because spray paint's got a lot of thinners in it, so it tends to dry very quickly. Got to be a fair amount around where this lever action happens. So red, salt, silver, clay, and at that point I'd also say if I wanted a word or something here, I'd spray it in whatever colour I was going to have it in, say black. Then I'd put a stencil down of that word. Then I'd do the top coat. So when I clean it all off, you see all this stuff coming off, all the clay, all the salt, everything, and the stencil comes off and you got the word there too. There'll be a lot of wear in there. I mean, where you've got constant contact, there'll be tons of wear. Don't even have to worry about being careful with this one. The black coat done. You'll notice I was twisting it a lot when I was looking at it, just to get light on it so I can see if I'd missed anywhere. Okay guys, back to the next step. Now I masked the metal bits so I sprayed back earlier, just put a spray of white on there. So I'm going to put this little Pox Eclipse logo on. And the way I'm going to put it on is the circle goes on first, the outer diameter. And being a circle, you don't have to get it straight because it's right way up. But I can use the judgment of the spaces from the top of the skull to the edge of the circle to get this in position. And it goes very close to the top of the skull, the circle I should say, like so, very easy. Okay, there's our little skull. There's my skull and crossbones on one side. I'm going to do it on the other side. Then I'll just mask around that and just give it a quick spritz of black, so we're done. Right, now that we've done the other parts, we're just masking the body of the Nerf blaster. You've probably seen enough of me doing this, so I'll turn off the camera, get it done, and get back to you. Right, so here you've got the two halves of the blaster fully masked. In a few places where I've been working, I've knocked the clay off. That'll have to be touched back on, but that's ready to be sprayed with the Cove colour, the sandy colour, as a base coat. Now, finally back in the shed to get things done. Now, as you can see, I've taped a few things off. I've printed these lengths. You can't see them on here, but they've got the digital shape either side, and I put them on where I want them, stick them down, and now I'm going to tape this front edge off so that stays that colour. Then I'll spray this edge up to where I'm going to put another one. And also anything I cut off I can actually stick in this area so this colour stays under there. So I'm getting two colour passes done at the one time, which is really useful, because this is drawing all this by hand on a computer has been really time consuming, but I think it'll ultimately be well worth the effort. So as you can see, there's my shape. All these are different, so I'm not worried about things looking too familiar, but the point is with this stuff is, if you can see this photo, which you might be able to, you can actually see that shape there is repeated there. So they're using a uniform pattern. Now I've printed out lots of little shapes to stick on separately, but let's get on with this first, get the big areas blocked out. So I've got the Pox Eclipse there, because this is a prize. So because this is going to go over this, I'm going to put this down here. So what am I going to do? Okay, alright, I'll start here. Just go straight over. And now I'm going to, that's nice then down. I'm going to trim this off right here, so not to waste any of this, and continue it on just here. And it's not going to get all the way over, which is annoying. But also, it's interesting, I've got the same shape at either end, so I'm going to have to cover that up with another little bit, just to make it different. In fact, I'll use one of my little single parts. I've printed out some singles, and I'll just chuck that over the top of that. So what will happen now is I'll put another one up here, probably up through that, across over the ejection hatch. So that will be covered, that will be sprayed, that will be covered, that will be sprayed. Right, okay, so there's my blaster all masked up, ready to go. Mixed up a brown. Now you might not be able to see it in this printed out photo, but I'll put a digital copy up. There's large sections of this sand colour and large sections of a really light brown. So that's what I'm going to do. Not a great contrast, but it's sort of the background colour, so just be aware of that. You don't need a strong colour there. So here we go. Now I've mixed up an absolute crap load of this brown because I'm going to need some in the other areas where I take that masking off to put little brown camouflage dots. Masked it off, painted it brown, left some templates on to give me some effect. So I have to take the paper off now because the other shapes, the other distortions blend over parts, and also it'll help me get to proportions right of where they've got to go. So I'll strip this thing down. The next stage is doing the next colour, which when you're painting camouflage you always go light to dark, so dark stuff covers up any mistakes if you can do it. So the next stage is actually I'm going to cut out some of these voids and mask around them and put them down, and then I just use the airbrush and do a little psh, psh, you know, spray and get my shape. So the next colour is the ivory, virtually the white. So I'll cut a few of these out. What I might do is put one right on the front there. It's on a flat area, but it's on an area with detail too, so it'll work reasonably well. And then a piece of paper towel, take a hole out of the centre and just tape it over. Time to do the next coat. I'm doing the cream colour, so what I'm doing is pressing down the stencil beforehand. So just do a test. Thin coat. Right, just spent most of the morning masking, spraying, remasking, respraying. So it's time to take the final layer off. All over the place. But that's not too shabby. I'm pretty happy with that. Right, hi guys. Now as you can probably hear, it's raining, so I apologise if I'm speaking too loudly. Now, we've got our little sling fire. Got most of the masking off, and I've got my digital camo pattern on. I'm really happy with it, except there's just a few little things, like there's areas, small areas that I've missed because of the shape and stuff. So what I've decided to do, cut out all these little shapes, just tiny little shapes. Each one has a 10mm surround, so I should be able to put these on without having to worry about all the masking, and then I can just add a few quick little shapes, just bulk out the camo just a little bit more. So that's it guys, that's how you do a digital camo pattern. All you need is a $300 plotter and some masking film. Right guys, I started doing the graphite and sandpaper thing before I started filming, sorry about that. Initially I had 180 wet and dry, sanded the graphite against it, and it was really fine, and it's a bit, you know, taking a bit longer than I expected. So got out a bit of 120, sanded it down, poured it on and just rubbed in with some cotton wool, and it looks really good. So I'm going to do it on this side too. There's graphite there. Just try and get, you don't have to get right in the nooks and crannies because that's where the dirt accumulates. I'm going to do a light brown wash like I did on the strife, then a couple of black washes. So I'm using this Japanese ground self-defense force brown. I won't cover the black, I'll just be very careful. Can you see the difference? The sling fire has got a hoop, sling hoop built into its butt, but it hasn't got one up the front. What I'm going to do is using a bit of this fencing strap, and this is a part of the edge off a round trampoline, and that's where the spring hooks into. So there. So what I'm going to do is just put some of this strap straight through that, fold it back, 4 screws, nice coarse thread screws to hold in, going in at the edge, which I'll miss the barrel so I won't lose any air pressure. Alright, so a little less room than I thought I had. Okay. Just wondering if I can grind out a bit of that and put it underneath there. Right, there we go. This little flap of metal, bent over, pre-drilled, my loop in it. Okay, what I've done, guys, is I've ground out a little bit of this on the inside so this tab fits in, drilled the 4 matching holes, so I've got the 2 screws holding this on, 4 going through both pieces, so it should be a nice tight fit. Now, it's just been 2 hours of frustration trying to get these 2 sides of the shell closed. I could not for the life of me figure out why until I took the spring out and started playing with the action and getting everything sorted. And this is the problem. This kit that you get, I can't remember, I think it was AK Mods, comes with 2 steel pins, and I use them. Turns out that steel pin is about 1.5 millimeters longer than that steel pin, and if you put them in the wrong holes, the action won't work. You'll get 1 cock, 1 shot, then nothing. Just got these halves back together. Another test. Good. Check the other side. Yep, just as dirty. Okay, good. Now, get on with putting the rest of the thing back together. So, okay. There we have it. Cool. Let's have a look. Not too bad. This recess in the side of the cheek rest, so just going to whack that there, give it a bit of support, drill a hole. Trying to get them in the exact centre. Wow, that is thick plastic, at least 2 mil thick, so it's pretty good. In my inimitable style, I've forgotten one thing, and that is just I did the graphite on the front end, didn't do it on the rest of the body, so I'm going to do that. Second last step, which is I've sanded some graphite onto the sandpaper. Now I'm just picking it up with the Q-tip or cotton wool bud. Did that actually show up and change? Oh yeah. It's actually giving it a nice sort of gunmetal-y look. And because I can't get into the recessed areas, they're automatically being highlighted. Well, that was fun. Right in the middle of doing that black, the power went out. So let's continue with the smoke. Right, hi guys. Now here's how I wrapped the handle. First I drilled a hole underneath for the leather string to go through. Then I sanded down the fake wrapping on the handle with the Dremel and the sandpaper because it had too many high spots. Then covered it in Tamiya putty and smoothed it out until it had really good coverage. scraped it back with the side of a chisel and then sanded it back down again till it was nice and smooth. Then threaded the leather string through the hole, pulled it out with tweezers, tied a large knot in the end and fixed it with super glue so it wouldn't come out. Once that was done, I pulled the string back inside the handle, after trimming it of course, and then began the wrap. And the first thing I did was what's called a locking loop, which is taped down the length of the handle, and that's going to be underneath all the wrapping. And then I began the wrapping, which took about 45 minutes, just going around and around the handle and using super glue at strategic points at the sides and the top just to keep the leather string glued to each other. Once I got to the end, I glued it off and then threaded the string through the locking loop, and you'll see how clever this is. Once the string through the locking loop, you simply go to the other end, grab the loose end, pull it up, and it pulls the loose end underneath all the other leather, and it's locked in place and it can't go anywhere. And I made sure it couldn't go anywhere because I added a bit of super glue to both ends, so it's all locked in. And then it was just a matter of trimming off the 3 loose ends, and once they were done and gone, it was finished. It's a relatively simple procedure, it just took a long time.